Meeting to order. And we did not have a meeting in December, so we need to appoint a president pro tem, to begin our organizational meeting. I can appoint that person, and I'm willing to do that unless someone else wants to move forward. Okay, then I will self-appoint. Thank you very much. That doesn't mean it has to continue the rest of the meeting. So we'll go from there. All right, so we will call the organizational meeting to order. And if you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just like we're ashamed of everybody. And would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes. At this time, I would open the floor for nominations for president.
I would like to nominate Mrs. Jody Getzman for president.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, we will close the nominations. And would you take the roll, please?
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yeah, abstain, sorry. All right.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Thank you for that vote of confidence. At this time, I would open the floor for nominations for vice president.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Tim Workman.
And I second that. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations, and would you call a roll?
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Abstain.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Judy, do you have the oath of office?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to do both of you at the same time. You'll just say
Sure.
president instead of vice president.
Thank you.
You want to raise your right hand and stand up, please? You do. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will perform faithfully the duties as president and vice president of the Board of Education of the Mount Vernon City School District, Knox County, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? The answer is, I do.
I do.
I do.
All right, we will move on to the appointment of board committees. There is an attachment of the board committees. Does anybody have any desire to switch, or are we good with our current committees? We can just keep them as is. Any other?
That's good.
You're good?
Good.
All right. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the Board of Education committees as presented, as the duties we had in 2024 will carry over to 2025.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Thank you, Mr. Workman. And would you call the roll?
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes. Motion carried. Right, then we have a list of resolutions, a lengthy list of resolutions. Most of them are the same that we have had, and I would entertain a motion, and then we can have discussion, and if there's any changes, we can make those at that time.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. All right. Any corrections
I
or
do have
comments?
a change that I would like to recommend, and that is for the board meeting of November 17th. They've changed the OSBA Capital Conference so that it's that week. So maybe we could meet either the Monday before or the Monday after.
So it would be November 10th versus November 17th.
Or 24th.
Or we could go, the other direction if you
How does
like.
that bump into
That's,
Thanksgiving?
Is that Thanksgiving week?
Thanksgiving would be the
The
next.
following
Well,
No.
Thanksgiving is later that
would be
week.
that
It's
week.
the 27th.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
that
whatever
Thursday.
The
that
board's
was-
desire would be
The
The
10th?
Monday of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Not
10th or the 24th, right?
Which is your preference? Doesn't matter to me.
Judy, is there any financial decisions that would affect either way?
That's what I wondered, if
There's
we
a
could have
November.
things ready. But
Finance
I
piece.
will say that we have,
The forecast will be submitted. that
we have-
week,
feeling like an earlier December timeframe,
Right.
which is the 15th. So then if you go the 24th,
That's
it's a little short right there.
So the 10th.
The 10th?
But you could say the same thing
Yeah,
about.
same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
October, so,
Yeah, so whatever your preference is.
Flip a coin.
I'm, whatever the pleasure. About the 10th,
At the pleasure of the board.
likewise.
The 10th?
The 10th, Judy? Is it 10th? Okay.
I'll put it down as the 10th.
Okay,
In this section, just for clarification, the only other real change, everything else is the third Monday, with the exception of February, this coming February. And we did move December 15th to 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
There are so many concerts during that holiday time frame that I see a lot of you there, and so we like to get to those. That makes sense.
I do think we didn't name a delegate.
I think that's next.
that's next.
Oh, next,
That will be next, yeah. Okay, all right. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the resolutions with the change of the November date. Are you still good with your motions?
Yes.
Yes. Would you call the roll?
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Motion carried. All right, now appointment of the Legislative and Student Achievement Liaison in the OSBA Delegate. Currently, our Legislative Liaison is Ms. Regola Dye, and the Student Achievement is Dr. Bennett. I guess we can kind of assume that Ms. Regola Dye will continue that for us. She does a phenomenal job.
She's not here.
Yeah, she's
not here.
Well, you heard it.
But I am here. Is there
And
anybody
you are
else
here.
who would like?
We tried.
Did you say you would?
No, I said you would be really.
Oh.
Yeah, I would agree.
You do a great job, yes. Then we would need an OSBA delegate and an alternate.
Okay, Mary is the legislative.
Already doing it for the
Yes.
center.
Yes. You're doing it for the clerk.
Yeah, she
Can you
is.
do it for both?
No, can only vote one entity.
Were you doing it for both last year? Or I mean, for
You're
just,
not allowed to do it for.
just for them last year or just for us last year?
I think I did it for them last
For-
year.
Yeah, you
So
were.
did Mary do it last year?
Mary
It
was
must
the
have been
one.
Mary.
I thought it was Mary
Yeah, I
this
think it
past.
was.
Unless either one of you two want to do it? Sure, Mary.
Monday at 2:30.
I think she enjoys doing it as
I
long
was
as
gonna
she's.
say, I think
yeah,
she's,
That's-
yeah,
if you wanna
yeah,
make
that would be
Mary-
good.
Make it Mary and I can be the alternate.
Okay.
That would work fine.
All right, so our legislative liaison is Ms. Regola Dye, student achievement liaison, Dr. Margie Bennett, OSBA delegate, Ms. Mary Regola Dye, and alternate Jeff.
Yep.
Correct? Okay, all right, so I would entertain a motion for those liaison and delegates.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? Would you call the roll?
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes, motion carried. That brings us to the end of our organizational meeting. I would entertain a motion for adjournment at 6:10. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. And would you call the roll?
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Motion carried.
Oh, no, no.
That's quick. You tried.
They're not that quick. All right.
All right. I will call the meeting to order for the January 13th Board of Education. We have had the Pledge of Allegiance, but would you call the roll? Yes. Sorry.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Moving on, I would entertain an approval of the minutes for the November 18th regular meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Were there any corrections or additions? No? Okay, hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Motion carried. All right, moving to accommodations and communications.
We do have one tonight, and so January is traditionally School Board Appreciation Month, and we are so incredibly appreciative. I am going to just briefly read a news release that we'll put out. January is School Board Recognition Month, and Mount Vernon City Schools is celebrating its board members for their dedication and commitment to the district and its students. Serving as a link between the community and classroom, school board members are elected to establish the policies that provide the framework for public schools. Mount Vernon City School Board is responsible for an annual budget of $40+ million, 3,700 students, 500+ employees, and 9 schools. That's quite a responsibility. Even though we make a special effort to show our appreciation in January, your contributions are really a year-round commitment. I want to thank you, our board members, and let you know that we support you and appreciate the service you have for our district. We have little certificates of appreciation. I was told to forget the frames this year. I did try my best here, and so serving the board for, I believe, a whopping 37 years is Dr. Margie Bennett. Jody Getzmann, coming up behind, 17 years. Thank you, Jody. And Mary has been doing it for 10 years. Jeff Ward, I had you down, Jeff, for 6. Is that correct?
Sure.
That was really easy. Tim Workman, 38 years. No, 5 years. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Again, thank you very much. We have a great board. I know Judy and I will often comment on how blessed and fortunate not only our community is, but we are to work for a board that's very student-centered and keeps that at the forefront of all of their decisions. Leaves the politics and all of those things aside. It's about students, and we're thankful for that. So thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you. All right. Moving on to reports and public participation, we have a very special building report by Pleasant Street Elementary.
Street Elementary.
Thanks so much for having us and allowing us to celebrate all of you this January, like last January. Although I told Mrs. Taylor today that next year when we all race to grab our month, as soon as Bill releases the document in our August leadership meeting, everyone is typing over top of each other because nobody went September and October because we're not ready. I will make sure it's on a school day because that absolutely will be students. So for our parents and students, thank you for coming to school on a school day. We appreciate that. In the past, you guys have heard about MME, Rocks, Guys and Ties, Jacket Club in the past, Rocks tonight. And so what we've tried to do is just reflect on the extra things that our staff is doing that are serving and loving on our students beyond just what's happening inside of our classrooms from 9-ish until about 3:30. So all I simply did was come up with what idea of the topic and went to Mrs. Green and said, I really want you to consider doing this for me. And she didn't hesitate. She might be second guessing herself right now. But Katie very selflessly chose to spend her summer being trained by the United Way to be approved as a ROCS leader. We had this program at my former school. We've already had it at Pleasant Street, but when Michelle Udi got married and moved to Colorado, we lost that opportunity because no one was trained. So I went to Mrs. Green about it, shared my idea with Mrs. Taylor, and they just magically kind of took it and made it happen. Other than me getting to spend time with our young ladies, making sure that they're as ready as they can be for tonight, these two absolutely have ensured that everything is ready for you this evening. So I just want to take an opportunity to thank them. But Mrs. Green is going to come up and share with you what she spends time outside of her contracted school hours doing to meet with a small group of young ladies in our building. And between her and our students and some of the fun information in the PowerPoint, hopefully you'll get to see as the kids know whether their last day with me is tomorrow or the last day of 5th grade. We have a responsibility to help them be the best junior jacket that they can be. And we take that pretty seriously in our building. So this is just one little niche way that that's happening. So Mrs. Green, come on up. Thank you.
Yeah, you can go ahead. So as she said, I spent some time getting trained. Thanks. Actually, the idea came to me, I don't know how. I remember Michelle Odi was doing this, and I saw the shirts, and I was like, wow, that seems kind of cool. But I have young kids, so doing extra things is kind of hard. They're a little bit older now, so I'm allowed to put some extra time into the things that I really enjoy. So I started doing this because being a girl is really hard. There is so much pressure to be perfect, pretty, not too bossy. If you're bossy, then you're considered mean. We learn about drama, how it's really just a lack of communication. And the list goes on. So I have a 4th grade daughter, and I see it in all the 5th grade girls. I've heard everything that they've said to me, and I just want to empower them to be the best version of themselves. Okay, so what is ROCS? ROCS stands for Rolling Our Experiences. It's a curriculum-based program for school-age girls. Grades 5 through 12. So there's an elementary side to it, and then there's like a middle school, high school side. So what I teach them is not maybe as in-depth as regards to like social media and those types of things. The mission is creating generations of girls who control their own relationships, experiences, decisions, and futures. This is basically how it works. So you have to work for a school to get trained, and then I meet with a small group for 20 sessions, and the girls learn a bunch of different skills that are listed above. So what is ROCS? So I have a girls index, which is a research-based study. There you will find gobs of information. There's charts, there's pie graphs, there's bullet points. Some highlights are 39% feel like they belong at school, which is a pretty low statistic. 57% don't believe they are smart enough for their dream career. So I'm working to build their confidence to change that. 79% believe that they're going to explode from pressure. Pressure from body image, social media, the list just goes on and on. And 2 and 3 don't speak their mind because they are afraid that they won't be liked, so they want to be liked. So they're not gonna say what they wanna say because they just wanna fit in. If you wanna play the video, but for time-wise, you don't have to. Everything is pretty much.
I think let's see how long it is. I think it's only 3
Okay, yeah.
Bravo.
So a little side note, when I was going through my training, I did my first day virtually, which was really cool. You still had breakout sessions, but man, when you went to that training in person for 2 days, I did not want to leave because it was so inspiring, it was so empowering, and I just hope to carry that to my Rocks girls. So these are just some statistics that are supporting Rocks, making it better. 87% participants feel connected to girls their age. So we bring a very diverse group of girls together and kind of, you know, you don't want all of the same clique in the same group. You want all walks of life together to make it very broad. 9 in 10 Rocks girls say they feel safer and more confident to protect themselves. So that comes from our self-defense, which I'll talk about a little bit later, maybe the next slide, where you have to use, like, I actually have pads and they will, you know, we will practice moves, and there's like, I think 6 parts of the body that we practice striking, like the eyes, the nose, the throat, the solar plexus, the knees, the feet. So we're pretty excited. And 97% of parents said having Rocks at their school helped their daughter improve her confidence. So I hope to continue that. So my girls are amazing. We meet Tuesday mornings from 8 to 8:50. So before school even starts for elementary, they come to school early. Some of them give up safety patrol to participate in Rocks. We start each meeting with what's called Rock expectations. So it's our expectations, it's our rules. I just want to highlight the first 2 things on our list, and that is what is said here stays here. I'm very adamant about that. So like if we share something, that is absolutely staying in the conversation in that room. But when we learn something new, it can absolutely leave. the classroom. So these are all the sessions that we have gone through so far. And the last one is going to be their favorite. So the last one listed is going to be their favorite. We're currently on lesson 10, which is using your voice to stand up for yourself. But the personal safety and self-defense is lesson 11. So we're going to get to that in a couple weeks.
I have a couple board members that would like to help.
We'll share pads with you.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to call some of my rocks girls. This is Jovi Wilson. Come on up, Jovi. Okay. So Jovi, why did you join Rocks? What is your favorite activity that we've done so far? So we have like, I printed out little, they're not step stones, but you know, they're little shoe on a piece of paper and they have situations on them. So you roll a dice and whatever one you land on, we read the situation and we talk about it. So it's kind of like a real life connection for them. Because these things really do happen in their lives that we are reading.
Jovi, but is she going on to the next young lady?
I have one more question.
One more question, I got a question for Jovi.
Okay. What have you learned or how have you grown to feel more confident in yourself?
I learned to use teamwork
Teamwork?
to solve your
Yeah, we work on that a lot. We work on communicational skills, how to problem solve with each other. It kind of goes back to the empathy lesson that we did. Okay,
Jovi,
Mr.
did you
Cedar.
bring somebody with you today?
You went in a car.
Wait for you in the car. Well, she's being recorded right now, so say a nice thank you to your mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks,
Haley.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Jovi. Okay, next is Harlow.
Really loud, Carla. Hi.
Why did you join Rocks?
My mom signed me up and I thought it'd be cool to like be at school early.
So, Jovi and Harlow are two of my girls that gave up safety patrol on Tuesdays to be in Rocks. So, thank you, girls. What is your favorite activity that we've done so far?
The empathy thing.
You guys like the empathy thing. Again, that's where we roll the dice and talk about situations. What have you learned and how have you grown to feel more confident?
I learned how to like work better with others, and I made some friends like in it too.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. Thank you, Harlow.
Harlow, did you bring someone with you?
Yeah, my mom.
Where's she at?
Carlo, I have to ask, has it helped you getting along with Hattie? You said others. She did. Preschool. It's been a couple years.
She just put it together.
She
It's like, where do I know her?
Small world.
That was
All
correct.
right, next I have Emerald Rose. Why did you join Rocks?
To learn about other girls and what they're going through.
I think the biggest lesson my girls are taking it from right now is empathy. I love it. What is your favorite activity? Okay, well I promise when we get to lesson 11 it's going to be self-defense. And what have you learned and how have you grown to feel more confident in yourself?
I've learned how to speak up more because I'm always a shy kid, and I've been talking up more instead of being quiet most of the time.
I love that. And look at you up here speaking. You know. All right.
Emily, did you bring someone special with you?
My dad.
Welcome.
Thanks, Dad.
That's right.
Is she really that shy, Dad? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
This is amazing. She's
Yeah.
doing great.
Oh, great.
No, not at all.
That might be the loudest I've ever heard Emberlyn's voice.
And
Really
she was
impressed
standing
right now.
like this. Like, I love it.
That's a lot of self-confidence. That's awesome.
Okay, next I have Kaylin Grimmett Anderson. Why did you join Rocks?
Because it seemed very interesting, so I asked my mom to sign me up.
I love that. What is your favorite activity that we've done so far?
The hot chocolate river with marshmallows in it.
Oh.
So it's not real hot chocolate and marshmallows. So the class is set up just like with pieces of paper kind of scattered out as steps. And what they have to do is it's a team building activity. So they have to get across the river without falling off the marshmallow. But the problem is I was the marshmallow monster and I got to take away the marshmallows. So it kind of broadened their way of team building. You know, how are you going to get across working together if I take this away? You know, what strategy are you going to use? You kind of have to come together. And we did it a couple of times. They did it first with like their buddies, and then I kind of made them separate and work together, and it worked out beautifully. And what have you learned, and how have you grown to feel more confident in yourself?
It's better to have more people to help you than you just doing something by yourself.
Yeah, that's great. You can get a sit down.
Kayla, did you bring someone with you?
My mom.
Oh.
Excellent. Thank you, Mom.
Play this?
You don't need to. Nope. That was a just in case because it's not a school day.
None of this?
There's one girl that is McKenna on here. There's one girl that's on here that is not here today, if you wanted to listen to that. But
Is this her?
no, that's Harlow. She's here.
Stop.
Oh, is it out? That's okay. That's all
Check
right.
it out.
Okay, that's okay.
Very good.
All right,
Any-
they're all spliced together.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Though.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you'd like me to play it, I can find it quick.
If you
If they're
need-
spliced together, let's see if we can,
I think this is.
Because each kiddo is only.
Oh yeah.
There she is.
Ruby is also not
Ruby's
here.
in there. So if you want to back that up a little bit, that's Ruby. A little bit further. We should have written down the times. I didn't think about it. Because in my mind, we were only going to use the video if I was missing kids. If we were missing kids. That one you can skip, Bill, because Joby's with us.
Look at you.
we'll see if you said the same thing.
Testing it.
I promise they did. It was MPV over and over.
You want me to fast forward?
Yeah. Back up.
McKenna.
And the rest you've all, the
Yeah,
rest that we
the rest
reviewed,
are
you've
here.
all seen.
Okay, any questions, board?
I can see why they're enthusiastic, because you are.
Thank you.
Well, girls, we would like to really thank you for coming and for Mrs. Green for doing the ROCKS program. Don't let anybody take your confidence from you. You guys feel empowered to be all you can be.
And share that confidence with others. Share it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
You're
Thank
welcome to
you.
stay for the rest of our exciting, fun agenda, but I understand if you want to
promised
leave.
them you would let them leave. And I will.
Great job.
Thank you.
With you and Mrs. Green. Out by the foyer door, and I'll do it real quick.
Bye, guys.
I knew Katie when she was about that age. She was one of the star softball players on my daughter's team. So,
All right, I do not see Mr. Conway or Mike. And there is no public participation. So we'll move on to board items for discussion. And we have no items at this time. So we will move on to 5 additions and deletions.
So we do have a couple of additions to the agenda since Friday when we sent these out. First, is a cybersecurity cohort. Mount Vernon has joined in LACA and several other districts to really take a much deeper dive into our cybersecurity. I don't know if you have been made aware of some of our surrounding districts relative to those who were using PowerSchool, which is an online kind of a student information system. We use Progress Book, but that system was hacked, yeah. And a lot of information was given out, and it's unfortunate we live in a day and age where that is so prevalent. We're thankful we weren't attacked, but I'm sure it's not a matter of if. It's probably a matter of when, but we want to extend that as long as we can. So that is an addition that we had to the agenda. We really did spend some time. I know this is, I'm just telling you the additions, but we're going back and really looking at Social Security numbers all the way back to, 10, 15, 20 years ago when those were things that we collected back then. Yeah. And making sure that we scrub all of that kind of data so that if we were hacked, that those would not be. And then under personnel, we do have a substitute teacher to add to the agenda tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to superintendent's report.
I really just have a couple things of information really in this section. The first thing I want to do, we weren't able to do it in December, but real quickly, the calendar review hearing. And so we're about a month behind, but that's okay. 30 days prior to adopting the calendar, we kind of have this meeting where we share information and making sure that we're following the Ohio Revised Code relative to our school calendar. Again, this is just a quick, brief minimum highlight. And so you recall years ago, we went from days to hours. And so there are some minimums. Any students in grades K to 6, the minimum is 910 hours. The high school is 1,001 hours. They do allow us to deduct really 24 hours in total for parent-teacher conferences and teacher in service. So you're really looking at you being down here into 886 and 989 would be the minimums. Quite frankly, you look at the current instruction that we have and we're almost 100 to 100 plus hours over what the state would have as the minimum. And then we do have some calamity days. In 24-25, our students' first day was August 20th. Our last day will be May 29th. Teachers' first day was August 13th. Teachers' last day is a day later, which is May 30th. Our instructional time hasn't really changed over quite a bit of time. The K-5 go basically 6 hours and 30 minutes, 9 to 3:30, and grades 6 through 12 go for 6 hours and 50 minutes. And then, of course, when you look at those hours, you always take out lunchtime, so that's not included in those hours. Some highlights of this particular calendar were students have started on an abbreviated week. In other words, we don't start at the very beginning of the week and go 5 days. It's a bit abbreviated. We have been staggering our start for kindergarten students. We feel it's so important to get a great start for kindergarten that we bring in half the class. And then we alternate days so that we can not only get a chance for them to get comfortable with the surroundings, but some of that early on testing can be done in a much smaller environment. We have 4 9-week grading periods or 2 semesters, 2 parent-teacher conference days. We have the typical holidays that you'll see there. This past year, we front-loaded our in-service. Our PD was more front-loaded because of the literacy initiatives that have been going on. So we had 5 days before school, two days during school, and then 3 teacher work days. Today actually was a contractual teacher work day. There was no professional development going on. Some things that the Ohio Revised Code said we have to pay attention to. When to begin schools. Most schools are beginning around the middle of August. You know, I know you all recall the days when we started after Labor Day. Well, those days have been gone for some time. In-service days, how many days do we want? Where do we want to put them? For us, as we move into a new year next year, we're getting close to, with the hard work of Kathy and Eric and some of our staff, we're doing an ELA adoption, really to align with the science of reading. So once we get those materials at the end of this year, we want to really make sure we're ready to go. So we're going to front load some days early on. Thanksgiving break is always a welcome break. Probably 2 or 3 years ago, we ended up doing the Monday after, and it follows the rest of the county. It seems to be so popular that they would like us to continue to do that. 2 weeks over that winter break period is always nice. When you kind of abbreviate it, makes it a bit more of a challenge. Spring break is usually that last week in March, unless it coincides with the Easter holiday. And then when to end school. You know, when we started back after Labor Day, we didn't end until June. Now that we start earlier in August, we try to end, in May there. And that looks like it's going to be a very similar thing. We have to look at both union contracts. Both union contracts have very specific. Some of them have specific dates and obligations that we have to be careful to follow. There are these transparency rules. We have seen the Career Center's calendar. We've seen some of the other schools around. And so then we have to have this particular hearing. Okay? Just to give you a quick sample here, I'm not going to go into detail of their particular calendar. This is the Knox County Career Center's calendar. And so we have a good number of students go to the Career Center. So we try as best we can to be somewhat similar, but you can only imagine the challenge Kathy has over there, knowing she's got 6 other districts to try to kind of wrangle and manage. But this kind of gives you, and you have copies of this gives you a highlight of those special times when they begin, when the students report their Thanksgiving break, their winter break, spring break, and their last day is actually May 22nd. If you look at our calendar, the one we're proposing as our option, we're looking for teachers to report the 13th to the 18th. Instead of 5 days, we're looking at 4 days at the front end because we want to try to bring in a little bit more there. Our students will begin on August 19th. Again, you go back and you look at the Career Center and they begin on the 13th. So there's a difference there. We do share the same Thanksgiving break. We share the same Christmas break, the winter break. We also share the same spring break. Our last day is the 28th, theirs is the 22nd. So you can see those 6 days on one end become our 6 days on the back end. We do embed some professional development, especially in light of a new ELA adoption, of just having some level of consistent time. But you'll notice like this 1017 and this 318, those are at the end of our 9-week grading period. So half of that day is PD and the other half is finishing up grades and those kind of things. And that is contractual in our contract. So all that to say, that's the calendar working with both unions that we felt like fit for us the best as we move into next year. We'll put this on our website so folks can see it. We'll come back in February and we'll hopefully adopt this. Or if you have any suggestions or things you want us to take a look at, we can certainly tweak that as we go. Any questions that you can think of right now relative to that? The other items for information here, and these again are items for information. The middle school is doing a handbook change on attendance. It really is more to align. So it's a 5-minute change from a 7:40 to a 7:45. So it's not a big change, but because they didn't want to make it, we put it in there. You are going to see bid advertisements going out after our board meeting for the high school gym floor. Not something that we were just looking really forward to. I think I've tried to explain a little bit of this to you, to the group, but back in the 80s, and I remember playing here in the 80s when I came here to compete against Mount Vernon, they had a tartan floor, and it's kind of a spongy floor, not a wood floor. And it was really popular. It was kind of the thing back then. Well, when they decided in the 90s to go away from it, what they did was gym floors usually sit on concrete, and they sit on these little blocks, right? Kind of springs, I'll call them. What they did was they took this tartan and they just carved out circles, and they put these discs on the circles, but left the rest of the tartan. And so then they laid it on top of the tartan and on top of these discs. The discs, which they don't no longer use, began to disintegrate. And so when the disc disintegrates, then the wood floor starts to go down and lay on top of the tartan floor, which now starts to lay uneven. And so we're starting to see some dead spots and rising of the gym floor, which is making it not as safe as we would like it to be. So it's really important that we kind of do that. It's going to take 2 steps. The first step is we have to have somebody come in and take up the old floor, and this tartan has mercury in it, hazardous material. And so we have to completely shut off ventilation, the whole nine, and a company, other than a floor company, has to come in and get rid of all of this tartan material. Once it's all clear back down to the concrete, then the flooring company can come in and put down the new floor.
Does that go under the bleachers?
It does.
Oh, my gosh.
So what they do with the bleachers, because these are conversations we've had too, we're going to do a couple extra things while we're at this stage. If you've been to a basketball game, a volleyball match, on the visiting side, we can't pull the bleachers out the whole way because traditionally the athletes like to sit on chairs on the floor. Back when we were playing ball, we sat on the bleachers. We didn't worry about it. That was the bench. It was truly a bench.
Get on the bench.
Now we don't do that. So those bleachers were built from the specs of the old ones, so we can never pull them out. So it means you've got like these 3 rows always stacked up. So we're going to make some adjustments. The hive sits right on the floor right now. We need to back them up at least a seat. And so we're going to make some small changes relative to that. The other interesting piece that's coming in around the same time is high schools are going to shot clocks. So there's now going to be a clock at the top of scoreboards, just like the college and the pros. So you can't stall. You've got to shoot the ball before the shot clock goes off. So we got some little renovations and some cleanup stuff that we want.
That's good, though.
Finally here, those are review of board policy updates. This is the first review. You will notice when you go down through here,
It's a long list.
it's a long list, and a lot of them are really cleanup kind of things. They like to go through and do a lot of that kind of stuff. If you look in this first link, you'll have an opportunity to kind of get the overview of each one of them. So they're moving some around, moving them in. There's nothing that really is what I would say is really changing anything much. But certainly if anybody needs copies or if any of our community members need copies of these, we can certainly share those as well. So those will all get a 30-day read. We'll come back next month. If you have questions about any of these, let us know. And we have the ability to make these our own. We do take seriously the legal advice that you get from policymakers. But there's so much stuff in the legislation going on right now. I feel like policies are just going to be forever changing.
Yes.
There are no items in the superintendent section for your approval tonight.
And then we will move on to curriculum instruction. And Dr. Bennett with student achievement report.
Okay. I'm just going to mention two articles in the December success. The first one is the fortnight physics. And I have a grandson who loved to play this when he was 13, 14, 15. He's now 16, so he may still like to play. Anyway, this Professor Andrew Vernon developed it into a tool for science education, and he created an immersive physics lab, and the students can explore the concepts of speed, acceleration, and control. And I looked at some of the videos, and they were pretty cool. So I'm trying to send this to my grandson and his dad so they can look at it and see if they think it would be interesting. I know that's another way to capture kids' attention and to get them to understand that physics really is practical and has an application. The second one is the national survey of 20,000 parents that found there's been a shift in how parents assess their children's academic performance. And now they're relying more on teachers' communication, and that's more trusted than grades because of the grade inflation situation. So I thought that was an interesting article, and we know that teachers communicating with parents frequently is so important, so teachers keep that up. And then in the January success, the first article is about a shift away from mandatory graduation tests, and only 7 states, Ohio, of which is one, is requiring standardized tests. Florida, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Texas, Virginia, and New York. And New York is scheduled to end the Regents exam, which I know has been going on since my father-in-law was a student many, many years ago. And they're ending in 27, 28 will be the last year that they get the Regents. So, and now there's more emphasis on demonstrating competency, or some states are even using grades in mandatory courses and capstone projects or technical milestones. And then the second article is on public school enrollment declines, and we know that's happening, but I thought you might be interested in the percentages. From 2019 to 2023, nationally, it's a decline of 2.5%. And according to the National Center for Educational Statistics, with the most significant drop of 4.5% in pre-K through 8th grade. So, and I think they said that nationally, we've had 900,000 less babies born in 2023 than in 2019. So it's a big difference. And I may be remembering that wrong. I didn't write that down, but it was an astounding figure, I thought. Yeah, big number. But that's nationally. Any questions? Lots of good articles.
Thank you. We have one item in this section for board approval tonight. This is a 2026 summer trip to Barcelona, Madrid, and Lisbon, Spain. Again, not this coming summer, but the following summer with Mrs. Mariana Vogt, our Spanish teacher, will be leading that trip. And if you've got a chance to look through that information, it looks like a great trip.
Yeah.
All these trips look really good. The price continues to rise a little bit if you've looked at it. I think this one's up or close to $5,000 now, but it's a 10-day trip. And as long as kids continue to take advantage and it's safe, we'll continue to send them there. So that's there for your approval.
I would entertain a motion for the student trip for the spring break 2026.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Any questions? Okay. Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. All right, motion carries. Moving on to fiscal services.
I'm just going to skip the November because the December is cumulative. So you can just go back to the one before that, Bill, if you want to.
This one.
Not that one. The next one. Yeah, there you go. So this one includes November, of course. We did have them ready in December, but so this is our reconciliation. You can make that a little bit smaller. Maybe you can see the whole page. Yeah. So that's our cash. That's our total cash. That's not just general funds. So that's all funds. You can see our investments there. Then the general fund there, we have $7 million. That's invested with Meter through U.S. Bank. And then the insurance account is $2.5 million. The next page then, this is matching up against our forecast. Again, you can see our supplies. We've spent 95%. So when we do the May forecast, the supplies budget is going to have to go up a little bit. But some of the other spending is lower. You can see the purchase services is down at 43%. So, and I think the revenues are going to come in pretty good. Excuse me, as you're aware, the taxes, I don't know if you've gotten tax duplicates yet, but you will if you haven't. So those will be being collected. And the one of the things that you approved in that long list of resolutions is for me to be permitted to ask for advances. So as those taxes come in, they have certain days that they'll send us advances on those until they get them all collected. So that's that particular part. And then down here is the investments that, again, you can look at the interest by fund. Halfway through the year, we're at $473,000. I always like to look at food services is making quite a bit of money, $19,000. And then also our self-insurance fund is being helped a lot by the interest that we're investing that money in. So we do spread it around. By law, we do have to spread it around to certain funds that can't all just go into the general fund. And the non-public school fund that's the money that we get from the state that we have to allocate that. So the rest of it is just the reports that show the status for the month, and then also the revenue or the receipts and the checks that we issued. We have the donations to Pleasant Street and Dan Emmett from A Plus Auto, a large bag of hats. To Pleasant Street from Extreme Air, pizza for the classroom holiday parties. To Pleasant Street from Inner Church, a large box of pull-ups. To Dan Emmett from the Mulberry Street Church, gloves, miscellaneous small clothing items, and personal hygiene items. To Pleasant Street again from Monroe Dan Emmett Grange, a bag of pants and underwear. The Robotics Club got $50 donation from Megan Durbin. The district libraries from Kids Shelf Bookstore, books for all the district libraries totaling $7,238. So lots of very generous donations there. And that's all I have.
Great. I would entertain a motion for approval for the fiscal services.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And very hearty thank you to Tanya at the Kids Shelf for that
Yeah.
very nice donation. Any corrections or comments? Okay, hearing none, would you call the roll?
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Okay, motion carried. All right, moving on to business services.
Okay. I was reminded when I saw the robotics there, I think I shared with the board, the robotics tournament we had just over the holiday timeframe here. And our folks really did a tremendous job. We had a middle school event on Friday, and then we had a high school event then on Saturday. And a lot of people were here doing a robotics tournament in the Energy Fieldhouse. And they did a fabulous job. They had a judge who was a NASA, worked at NASA, and so was very impressed at just what our students were doing, and we competed very well. So just thought I'd mention that quick. Under business services, know Ms. Ruguladai would love to be able to share what's going on. It is, they just kind of went into session. There are lots of bills that are going to be percolating and moving kind of through the process. We'll see how some of those bills come out. So I'm sure there'll be something to report probably in February. And February is probably when the governor comes out with his budget for the next 2-year biennium. And then there'll be kind of the back and forth sway as to what kind of goes on there. Items for board approval in this section, a large group of facility use requests. Again, Energy Fieldhouse is used for lots of things, and the city of Mount Vernon uses it for police, for fire, for trainings and different types of things throughout the year. Some of these, since this was kind of part of a December board meeting, you'll see have already taken place. This first one here did take place already, and we have a lot of all-out soccers using gyms for what's called futsal. I don't know if you've ever heard of futsal. It's like indoor soccer with a different kind of a ball on the floor with a small net. I think it really teaches just skills, foot skills, futsal. It certainly isn't like it is outside. But so you see those things there. Item number 2 is the agreement for server support. The gentleman who was working for us in doing Tier 2 and Tier 3 support just was ready to kind of resign. He kind of stepped in to help us out while we were doing it. We still need that support, and so we're working with Direct Tech. The cost differential is almost a wash, but we needed someone to help us with Tier 2 and Tier 3 support. Memorandum of Understanding for the Foster Grandparent Program. We've been doing this for quite some time. We don't usually have a large participation. We do have a couple, one at Pleasant Street and one at Wiggin Street. It's part of COAD, and they come in and do some mentoring and get FBI, BCI background check, and then COAD pays them a small stipend to support students. Knox Technical Center is listed there. We're opening up new credentialing programs all the time. So we have about 7 young ladies lined up for a nail tech credentialing, and we're doing EMT credentialing. But because we haven't had those before, we have to enter into an agreement with Knox Career Center or Knox Technical Center. And finally, item number 5 is a resolution to reimburse for some damage to a vehicle that was caused by one of our district vehicles. It made a lot more sense for us just to kind of mitigate that than send it to insurance and the deductible and all of that kind of thing. Those 5 items for your approval.
I would entertain a motion for the 5 items presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. Were there any questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes. Motion carried.
There are 2 other items in this section that we pulled apart, and they're the Ohio School Boards Association annual membership. That's item number 1 there. And then item number 2 is the Ohio School Boards Association Legal Assistance Fund. Those are items that we have participated in for a long, long time, valuable to the board and to the district. And we pulled those apart because one of our board members is a longstanding OSBA representative. And so we have it here for your approval tonight.
All right, I would entertain a motion for the 2 items for OSBA as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Any questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett,
I'll abstain.
and Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes. Motion carried. No student service items at this time. We will move on to our certificated licensed staff.
Okay, under this section, we have a number of employment things for this school year. Some contract reshaping in swimming. We have some substitute teachers that we're adding to the list. A number of stipends. When the state came along and did ELA, adoption of the science of reading, there was a requirement that you had to go through coursework, and the state reimbursed us, or reimbursed our folks for that coursework. And so you'll see a large list of names for that to pay those employees. And those are the items listed for this section.
I would entertain a motion for these certificated staff.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman.
Second,
Thank you, Dr. Bennett.
we're taking turns.
We are taking. And would you call the roll?
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes. Motion carried. All right, classified staff.
No items for information, number of items for board approval tonight. Some new employment, second shift custodian at the middle school and part-time cook at Pleasant Street. And a 7-hour aide at Mount Vernon High School. So those are new folks to us. Number of 2-year contracts, supplemental contracts for the insurance committee. Some other substitute employment, again, always welcome that. And we do have the retirement of a couple individuals. Sandy Davis at Pleasant Street as a cook, and Debia Schultz as a cook at East. So we certainly wish them well, and we'll get a chance maybe to recognize them at a later point in time. And then one resignation of a special education aide for your approval tonight.
I would entertain a motion for the classified staff.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And I know Sandy and Debbie have been around for a number of years, so.
That was Jeff.
All right, would you call the roll?
Dr. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes. All right, motion carried.
Just want to make sure.
All right, we'll move on to board member comments at this time. And Dr. Bennett, would you like to start tonight?
Sure. Well, I'd like to let the students know how much we appreciate it. They're showing us their new level of confidence. And I thought that was pretty impressive that young kids are willing to come and speak before being adults. So that takes a lot of courage. I'd also so appreciate our teachers that are in our staff that are willing to do extracurriculars for our kids, because that is so important. And I know years ago, I remember football coaches saying they made about a quarter or 50 cents an hour because of all the time that they spent. And even though teachers and staff who volunteer or, to do that are paid a little more, it's still a lot of hours and a big commitment. And we just appreciate that so much, because kids really need that. That gives them a sense of belonging, and they get to know the adults in a new way and in depth. The other thing I wanted to say was how much I enjoyed the holiday programs in December and the concerts. And it's just amazing how if you see the 8th graders and then you see the high school kids and how they've advanced. So that was very enjoyable. So I was glad we got to go to many of those. And just everyone be safe and stay warm and healthy, and take care during this new semester. And I hope everyone has a good spring semester. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ward.
Well, you took all of mine. That's okay. I'm glad everybody came through the holiday safely, and here we are on the other side of it now, so I'm glad for that. I too really appreciated the holiday programs. I got to hit a lot of them, and
It's fun.
it's just fun to see how that, and there's always some pleasant surprises too. With some of the performances, you just find yourself pleasantly caught off guard, and so
Good turnout.
yeah, it was always great. I too really appreciated the program that was presented tonight from Pleasant and Mrs. Green. I think all of us have daughters, I think, here at some level. And, you know, when you layer on the social media impacts of today and the instantaneous effects of all of that, that would have been a whole new level of parenting for a daughter especially. So I appreciate the efforts going into that. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Workman?
I'd like to thank everyone as well, and just echo, you know, what was said. Learning more about the ROCKS program, it's really encouraging to see that. Obviously, Katie's very passionate about that, which shows. It was upsetting to see some of those numbers, but knowing that and working through that is obviously a great step, you know, towards gaining their confidence. And like Dr. Bennett said, you know, it's always tough for the younger ones to come and speak, and so having the courage to do that was really neat to see. And also it was said, you know, looking at the list of folks that are going above and beyond what their normal duties are is very encouraging as well. I'd like to thank them for doing that, and you know, looking forward to start of a new year.
And I will just echo much of what was said. I unfortunately wasn't able to go to any of the holiday programs this year.
It's okay.
And it was a totally different holiday without watching them. It was. First year, I think, in all of my years of board service, I wasn't able to do that, but they were missed. But I've heard many wonderful things, so kudos to all of the students, the teachers, the bus drivers, everybody that made those things happen. It's exciting. I have finally been able to get out and about, and it's been fun finally enjoying and seeing the kids again. And I was able to go yesterday and watch the little ones wrestle, and that was very wonderful. All three of the grandsons were wrestling yesterday. They did a fantastic job, and it was just fun to watch the enthusiasm of the lay people that were there helping the littles and all of our students. They presented themselves very well, and it's just exciting to see how we can build programs. I mean, we just don't have a high school level. We build our programs, and that's exciting. Many opportunities for our kids at all levels, and so whether it's through music or sports or whatever it is, there's programs for everybody. The Roxy at the elementary, the boys with ties, men with, what was it? Guys with ties. And those are just exciting things that if you're not into the athletics and to the music, then there's other opportunities for kids. And as you said, Dr. Bennett, it's great that we have staff that are willing to invest in our children. So that's exciting. So thank you for all of that. All right, at this time, we have reason for executive session for the employment of and compensation of an employee and the purchase of property for public purposes. There will be no action taken afterwards, correct?
Correct.
So I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And would you call the roll?
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett? Yes. Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.